This conference will now be recorded.
That's what I just said. Okay. So you had 2 weeks to write your lists. So they should be pretty long. Juan, you're looking at me like what list is he talking about?
I'm here. List the ways you and your marriage have been hurt by your spouse.
No, that's not
Wrong list?
No, that's the correct list.
Yes.
it. It is the other one.
So you got your list in your book. You just have a short list in your book.
No, we haven't gotten to this section yet. Yeah, we were still catching up. We actually promised ourselves we were going to do this during our honeymoon, but blame it on the pool.
Okay.
But we promised that we're going to make it up. So.
Okay. Well, this is a very, very, very difficult exercise to do, but it's also going to be one of the best you'll ever do in your life.
Oh no, I can come up with a list where Ian's hurt me quite a bit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Documenting them right now in my head.
Stephanie, did you and Phil get a chance to do your lists?
We did.
Good job. And Brittany and Justin? Brittany and Justin are frozen. They can't hear me. Oops, we lost them. We lost them. There, they're back. Brittany and Justin, did you get a chance to do your list? Can't hear you.
I think they're having problems with their microphone. They see it.
Okay, well then just shake your head yes or no. Okay, good. Okay, so now basically what you're going to be doing this week is sharing your list with one another in a specific way. And you don't have to read chapter 4 because I've got it, this that I sent to you. Okay, you've all got that? Emptying your emotional cup. Healing hurts by asking for forgiveness. You have that in front of you?
I'll get it my phone.
Brittany and Justin say no.
Brianne's going to check her emails.
Do I need to send it out again?
Did we get?
Let me check.
When did you send it, Pastor Mark?
I sent it to you last Monday, a week ago, I think it was.
Okay, we'll try to find it.
Okay.
But we do have chapter 4 open in front of us.
Okay, well, you don't need to read chapter 4 because you're going to be doing you're going to be doing this instead.
Okay.
The last email I had from you was on the 22nd, and it didn't have it on there.
That's the one I have to.
22nd was when I sent it?
No, I don't have that. The last email I have though, and it doesn't have it on there.
Oh. Okay. I thought I sent it to you. So I will, as we get off here, I'll send it to you. But it's what I call, I took chapter 4 and I changed it a little bit, the way the author has it and the way that I saw people were having problems with, and thought, let's do it this other way. So basically, I've got what I call the 5-step method of asking for forgiveness. Okay? Saying I'm sorry, which is kind of weak sometimes. Saying I'm sorry is kind of insincere at times. Or I apologize is sometimes a little insincere. So this is a 5-step method of asking for forgiveness so that it sounds very sincere when you're asking for forgiveness, okay? The first step is to name the thing that you did that hurt your partner. And you need to be specific, not general. In other words, I've told you probably a couple times that I used to be very impatient. And so for me to ask Carla for forgiveness and say, I am quite often impatient is general. But I was impatient with you earlier today when I asked you to get in the car. Okay? That is specific. So when you name the thing that you did, you're going to be very specific when you do it. Of course, that's what you were asked to do in writing the list originally. Be specific, not general. Okay? And you do not want to excuse, explain, or rationalize why you did it, or try to blame someone else for what you did. For example, it's a little boy and a little girl on the playground, and she takes his ball away from him, and he said, "Why'd you take my ball?" She said, "Well, I wouldn't have taken your ball if you hadn't pulled my hair." Okay, very childlike. We sometimes do that. We blame other people for our actions. Now, if Carla does something to me that hurts me, my feelings, and I do something back to her, it is my responsibility to ask for forgiveness, and it's her responsibility to ask for forgiveness. But that's totally up to her, okay? My job is to be blameless. Is to be blameless and be specific and be very apologetic. And so the second part of this 5-step method is to say, you have to use these exact words, I was wrong. Okay? I did this, I was wrong. And I want you to use those exact words. Okay? And the reason is that we human beings hate to use those words. It's very humbling. Okay? The third thing that you're going to do in the 5-step method is to empathize. You, as the person hurting your partner's feelings, need to realize and feel your partner's hurt or pain. Okay, so basically, what you're doing is realizing that if the shoe were on my foot, this is how I would feel, and this helps your partner to realize that you are truly sincere and truly apologetic. The fourth thing you're going to do is to explain what you're going to do about this attitude, action, or behavior in the future. In other words, you're going to describe the specific ways that your behavior will change. Now, quite often, probably most of the time, you're going to probably say something to the effect like, I will try my best to get better and not do that again. Okay, that's what you're going to say most of the time. You're not going to be able to, a lot of the time, to say, I will never do that again. If Ryan, if you hurt Quan's feelings, and you go through this 5-step method and you say, I will never do that again, it's pretty hard to say that you will never do that again. Not that you don't want to do it again, but chances are you might do it again. So to say, I will never do that again is not a good thing to say. I will try my best to get better is what you want to say. Okay. And the last thing you want to do in the 5-step method is to use the question. Use the question. Will you forgive me? Not forgive me, or I hope you can forgive me, but forgive me. And the reason for that is because this demonstrates, first of all, a great deal of humility, and vulnerability, and because it provides the listening partner with the opportunity to choose to forgive. Okay? If I hurt your feelings, Justin, I'll get down to the point where using the 5-step method where I will say, Justin, I hope you can forgive me. Okay? That's the last step. Now, you, as the partner being asked to forgive, should say, yes, I forgive you. And one of the main reasons is that one of the main reasons is that if you do not forgive, it's going to continue to eat away at you, and it's going to continue to cause problems in your relationship. Another reason to forgive is because if your partner asks you to forgive and you say, no, I don't want to forgive you, then that sets up a precedent where if you ask your partner for forgiveness for something you did sometime, your partner is going to say, no, I don't forgive you either. You didn't forgive me. Why should I forgive you? Okay? It's a mutual thing that you need to forgive whenever your partner asks you for forgiveness. The English word forgiveness, by the way, comes from a Greek word. You all know that our English language just didn't appear out of the blue. It came from several different languages. And the word forgiveness came from a Greek word. Now, the Greek word, in its original meaning, before we butchered for the word a little bit, comes from the definition of the Greek word is to have something, to let it go, and to never have it again. That's what forgiveness should be in our English language. But we unfortunately sometimes feel like forgiveness is a feeling. Forgiveness is not a feeling. Forgiveness is a conscious effort on your part. It's a free act of your will to forgive or not. And like I said before, you should forgive. Okay? Now, forgiveness does not necessarily mean that you're going to forget. The couple that taught us this class 20 some years ago, they took this class. Actually, I think they went down to Austin, Texas, and took this class directly from the author because they heard about the fact that there was a seminar going on down there at that time. So they went down and they came back and started teaching it to other people, including us. Now, the reason they took the class and wanted something like this class was because he had had an affair. Okay? And there needed to be they needed to somehow reconcile, and they needed to somehow solve the problem, get rid of the pain. And so I would say, I know that when they did this exercise, he asked her for forgiveness. He was very sincere in his 5-step method, and he was very sincere, and he asked her for forgiveness, and she said, yes, I forgive you. Okay? Now, I would venture to say that to this day, some 20 some years later, that she still thinks about that. Maybe not quite this long, maybe only 4, 5, 6 years she thought about it, but a thought came into her head, a negative thought. I wonder if I could ever trust him again. Well, wait a minute. A negative thought came into her head. What she needs to do when these negative thoughts come into our head is we need to use positive self-talk. We tell ourselves the positive truth. In her case, she probably said something like, she thinks about this event, this being unfaithful to her, and she'll stop and say, wait a minute. That was 22 years ago. He asked me for forgiveness. I forgave him. There's no sense in dwelling on it, no sense in thinking about it. It's only hurting our marriage if I dwell on it and continue to mistrust him. So I need to move on. That's called positive self-talk. Stop your negative self-talk and start using positive self-talk when you get that negative thought in your head. Now, a word to the person being asked to forgive. If I say to Stephanie, will you forgive me, Stephanie? You need to be very, very, very careful that you do not judge my asking you for forgiveness, of using the 5-step method, going through those 5 steps, that you do not judge that as being insincere. Take it as being sincere. Take it as trusting me that I'm being sincere, and move on. Do not judge and think, well, he's not very insincere. I had that with a couple weeks ago, where they were doing this exercise in front of me, which you guys are going to do in a few minutes. And when she asked him for forgiveness for something very, very, very big. And when he asked her for forgiveness, it was for something really, really small. So she felt like he was not being very sincere. He was not being very conscientious about doing this exercise correctly. And so do not judge. Okay? So this is what you're going to be doing during your marriage staff meeting this week. As usual, you're going to be sitting, especially this week. Do not get away from the rules that I asked you, or the way to have your marriage staff meeting that I asked you to do it. Again, get that piece of paper out that I sent you in the very beginning, if you have to, about the marriage staff meeting, that you're going to face one another in pairs. You're going to interlock your knees. You're going to hold hands. You're going to look at each other in the eyes. Okay? Then I suggest that the husband take the initiative and begin sharing his list item number one with his spouse. Okay, now, just to recall, item number one, our list number one is the list of things that you have done that have hurt your spouse or your relationship, your marriage. Okay, things that you have done. List number two is a list of things that your spouse has done that has hurt you. So you're going to take your list number one, item number one, and you're going to go through the 5-step method, and at the end, you're going to ask for forgiveness, and your partner is going to say, yes, I forgive you. Then the female is going to take her list number one, item number one, and ask for forgiveness of the male. Now, if at any point in time, anything that you mentioned from your list number one, and you ask for forgiveness on your list number one, your partner will be looking at his or her list number two and seeing if that was something that he or she wrote down also, in which case they can check that off as being covered. You understand that? Ryan, you got it?
Mhm.
So if list number one is being shared, but that's just also on your list number two, check it off. Okay, now you're going to go back and forth. List number one, item number one, male. List number one, item number one, female. List number one, item number two. List number one, item number two, et cetera, et cetera. Back and forth, until somebody gets to the point where they say, that was everything I had on my list number one. Then the other person, if they have more on their list number one, then they
Something else.
We lost your audio.
Yes.
It's just me.
No, we can
No,
hear
we
you now.
can't. We can't hear you, Pastor. I think we lost your audio.
Okay,
There you are.
there we are.
Okay. No.
You got me back now? You got me, Steph?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So once you've got rid of everything on list number 1 for both of you, then the husband, the male, is going to take the initiative and say, is there anything on your list number 2 that I have not covered? And you're going to say, probably, yes. And you're going to say the specific thing, and you're going to use the rules like we talked about last, and when I shared with you about chapter 3, how to write the list. What you're going to say is, I use the word felt and a feeling word. I felt rejected when you did this. Now you got to be very, very careful here that you do not go into a run-on sentence, a run-on paragraph, a run-on short story here, okay? You just say, I felt rejected when you pushed me away last night in bed. Okay? Very short, very sweet. You do not go on and on and on and on and what I call grinding it in or rubbing it in. That's not good. If you have something to share with your partner, make it short, make it sweet. I felt this when this happened. Okay? So, because the male is asking, is there anything on your list number 2 that I haven't covered? You're going to say yes, and you're going to say, I felt rejected when you did this. So, now the spouse, the female, has shared a hurt, and the male needs to go through the 5-step method in asking for forgiveness. Now, same thing happens with the female. Is there anything on your list number 2 that I did not cover? And you, male husband, say yes. This happened and I felt this when this happened. You're going to go back and forth and get rid of everything on your list number 2. Okay? No questions so far? Okay. Everything now is from list number 1 is gone. Everything from list number 2 is gone. So a question might come up, for example, that what happens in, like, let's say that Justin asked Brittany for forgiveness for hurting her feelings when they went out to dinner last night. And he asked her for forgiveness, and she says, yes, I forgive you. Okay. Now, 2 weeks down the road, they go out to dinner again, and Justin hurts Brittany's feelings again. What does Justin have to do at this point in time? It's the same exact thing that he did before. Is that covered by his previous asking for forgiveness? And the answer is, of course, no. Okay. Every time you hurt your spouse, even if you have asked for forgiveness about that specific thing before, you need to ask again for this specific incident, for every incident. So I told you about my impatience. Probably the first, after Carla and I learned this 5-step method, probably the first week after we learned it, the first day might have been impatient with her a couple of times, and the next day maybe only once, and then maybe it was only like about once a week, but I was learning my lesson, and I was not becoming impatient with her as often as I used to, because I was learning my lesson and not having to ask her for forgiveness every time was getting to be kind of ridiculous. Okay? To continue to do something that is not good is not a very mature thing. So, somebody during a class one time asked me, "Well, how many if Justin is always impatient with me, how many times do I have to forgive him?" And the answer is every time. However, I feel like at some point in time, if you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not getting better, then I think you need to seek professional help. Okay? And something specific, if you're always verbally abusive or always have an anger problem, if you're always angry, and you say nasty, ugly things, and you turn around and ask for forgiveness for doing it, but you continue to do it, you need professional help. Okay? Now, you've had your marriage staff meeting, you shared all your hurts, and so they're all healed. And your emotional cup that was filled with all those negative things has now been emptied. But if the hurt is still there, then let's say, Stephanie, if you go through that process and there's still something that hurts you about something that Phil did, then the only thing that you can do, I don't know how to put it any way other than to say, you have to deal with that hurt. Phil has asked for forgiveness. You have forgiven him. Now you need to forget. You need to deal with that hurt. It's not Phil's problem anymore. It was Phil's problem originally, big time. But he asked for forgiveness. He was very sincere. He meant it. You forgave him. Now you can't forget it. You need to deal with it and work on it. Positive self-talk. Okay? Now, let's say Quan, that Ryan hurts you, and she asks you for forgiveness, and you forgive her. But a couple weeks down the road, you bring it back up again and throw it in her face. What should you do in a case like that? Any thoughts, anybody?
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know if that was rhetorical or not. I would document it as I did something to hurt her by not forgiving her the first time.
I can't hear you too well.
I would list it as something that I hurt her by not forgiving her the first time, so I'm forgiving her, asking for her forgiveness again.
I can list one.
No.
Darn it. Okay, never mind. I am
You don't
calling a
have to ask
mulligan.
If you ask her for forgiveness and she forgives you, it's her problem. It's not your problem anymore. You do not need to ask her for forgiveness anymore. So what you say is something along these lines. What do
It's
you
your
call?
problem.
Huh?
It's
No,
your
you don't say.
problem. Oh.
No,
Oh.
you don't want
I
to say
said
that.
right.
Oh.
You can't be as blunt as I am.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Because that's not going to go over too well.
Okay.
You're going to do that in a very loving way by saying something like this. Darling, you forgave me for that, and I'm sorry that you're still hurting, but I was sincere when I apologized, and you forgave me, so it shouldn't ever be brought back up again.
And get over it.
No!
Okay.
It's going to go on this number 2.
No, you don't want to say that. If you want to sleep in the same bed tonight, you don't say that. Okay, so one more time in a very loving way. Darling, you forgave me for
You
that.
forgave me.
Sure.
I'm sorry that you are still hurting,
I'm
but
sorry
I
you're
asked you for
hurting.
You don't have to
forgiveness.
repeat.
Oh,
Okay, it's very important
okay.
because I'm sure that you all have gotten into arguments where something that hurt in the past was brought back up again. Now, that's the good thing about this 5-step method of forgiveness is when you bring it up, you ask for forgiveness, your partner forgives you, it's gone. It's not to be brought back up again.
There's no double jeopardy in forgiveness.
Correct.
Yes.
Try for you.
Yeah.
It's gone. Now, I think I might have told you that when Carla and I did this exercise, we didn't have enough room in the book, so we wrote it on paper. So what we did was once we got done with sharing all those hurts and asking for forgiveness back and forth, we took our papers, we crumpled them up, and we lit a fire and we threw them in the fireplace, which was a symbolic thing for us to do. They are truly all gone. Okay? You're going to find this exercise as daunting as it may seem right now. You're going to find it to be not all that bad once you get into it. And it's actually you're going to start to feel pretty darn good. You're going to start to feel this is good. This is a great way to ask for forgiveness because it really is sincere. And it's going to be, you're going to feel when you get to the end of the exercise, you're going to feel cleansed. Everything is wiped clean, cleansed. Okay? Any hurts that were there are gone. Okay? Let's see. What about? Let's see.
Pastor Mark,
Yes.
yeah, I have a question. So, for example, I think, for example, he has something on his list number 2 that I did, but I don't think it was wrong, and I don't want to apologize for it. Do I have to? For example, like he says, no cats. He doesn't want me to get a cat, but I come home with a cat, and I don't think I should apologize for that. How would that go?
Okay. That's a very good question. And this is my answer. I'm going to give it to you in the form of an actual incident that happened in Carla and my life. Okay.
Okay.
Every Sunday morning when people come in the door, male, female, I greet them all with a hug. Okay. Now, Carla felt like this one lady, how would I put it? Had the hots for me. Okay. She had intentions towards me. Carla just felt it. So she brought it up to me and she shared her feelings and she said, I feel jealous. I feel weird that because I feel like she has intentions towards you and so I don't want you to hug her anymore. Now, suddenly my rationale is I'm asked to not hug someone because Carla feels that way. That's not fair. I am asked to change my way of doing things because she feels that way. That's not fair. Okay. But when she brought it up to me the second time, I rationalized again. When she brought it up to me the third time, probably about a month's period of time, it finally clicked in that what I was doing, although I don't feel it was wrong, was hurting her feelings. Now, I don't want to hurt her feelings. So we talked it out I asked her for forgiveness for not taking her feelings into consideration about this lady. I said, but now I take your feelings into consideration and I will not hug her. I will never hug her again. That was an instance where I could say, I will never do something again. So I said, I will never do that again. Just a second, excuse me. I'm getting some feedback here real quick. So in your case, Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
you were asked not to do something
Mm-hmm.
and you did it. You went against his wishes. So I would say, yes, I think you need to ask him for forgiveness. You did something wrong.
But I get to keep the cat? Do I get to keep the cat? Yeah. Okay.
Of course, because he's a very, now, I'm shaking my head yes and goofing around with you, but
No, I know.
I think
Yeah.
you need to ask him. Once you ask him for forgiveness for keeping the cat, then I think you need to ask him if you can continue to keep. And I think he's a pretty soft guy. I think he's a pretty easy loving guy. I think he might, you know, because he loves you so much, he might give it.
We'll get a
Okay.
cat
But
when
you've got
Pastor
to
Mark hugs that woman again.
but you've got to own up for your mistake and ask for forgiveness.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you do something wrong or not?
Yeah. Because I went
Okay.
against it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. Sometimes we don't think we did things, but if that were wrong, but if we have hurt our partners, we need to ask for forgiveness. If we've hurt their feelings, we've made them sad, we've disappointed them, but we don't think we did anything wrong, we need to ask for forgiveness. It's an excellent question. Good. Let's see if there's anything else on this handout. Oh, okay. Here's another one. Hopefully, your list number 1 and your list number 2 are 100% perfect. In other words, they are absolutely everything you ever did that was wrong, or that was absolutely everything that your partner did that was wrong or that hurt you. Okay? So they're 100%. Now, if they're 100% according to your thoughts pattern right now, but a couple weeks down the road here, you suddenly remember something. You say, "Uh-oh, I just remembered something. How I hurt her one time, and I didn't have that on my list. I better go ask her for forgiveness." Okay. In other words, things are going to come up. Classic one with Carla and I was when we were getting. Let's see, what's today? Today's the 5th. In 6 days, we will be married officially 41 years. So before we got married, I promised Carla I would quit smoking. Now, did I? No, I did not. And it finally got to the point 30 years later, no, excuse me, 20 years later, that I decided, okay, this is it. I'm not going to smoke anymore. And I quit cold turkey and never touched another cigarette. But it wasn't until about 10 years later, after we had done this exercise approximately 8, 9, 10 years earlier, that I suddenly remembered I did not put something on my list of things that I did that hurt Carla. And that was that I promised her something and I didn't follow through. So I went up to her and told her, I said, look, I said, before we got married, I promised you I would quit smoking. I didn't do it. That was wrong of me. If you ever promised me something and you didn't follow through, I wouldn't like it. So I know how that must have made you feel that I didn't follow through on my promise. I will try my best to always keep my promises. Will you forgive me?" And she said, "Of course I forgive you." So you're going to remember things. Now, you're going to also have things pop up in the future. You're going to hurt your partner in some way, shape, or form. So when that happens, you are not stubborn. You are very mature. You walk up to your partner and you say, "Wait a minute, what I just did, I realized was not very nice. I was wrong." And you're going to go through the 5-step method and ask for forgiveness. Have you guys ever had a period when you were so upset with your partner that you didn't talk to them, you didn't want to talk to them? I think we all do. I think we all have. Instead of not talking for 3 days, walk up to your partner and say, "Wait a minute, what you just did hurt my feelings." If you hear that from your partner, it's time for you to turn around and ask for forgiveness for hurting your partner's feelings. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that's it. I think that was everything on the handout. So I need to send that handout to you. Everybody's clear?
Mhm.
You're not going to read chapter 4. You're going to read this handout that I sent you, and then you're going to sit down and have your marriage staff meeting, and you're going to share your list back and forth and get rid of all those hurts from the past. Good. Okay. Then would you, Quan, would you like to share with Ryan one thing that you have done that has hurt her, and go through the 5-step method? I want to
Ryan,
show you. I
go
want to
ahead.
show you how easy it is. Okay.
I know when we got married, I promised you that we would get a cat,
Mhm.
and I would be really upset if you made a promise to me and didn't keep it. So I'm sorry that we didn't get a cat, and I promise going forward that I'll try to keep my promises. Will you forgive me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Except for one thing. That you left out one thing. That's
Oh no.
exactly what I said. You left out the words "I was wrong." Okay. You left it out because you don't like to say it.
Mm. I was wrong about making a promise I couldn't keep, or I didn't
How
keep.
about I was just I was wrong.
I was wrong. I'm sorry you feel that way.
No, you did.
Oh, I was wrong.
Okay.
Will you forgive me?
Mhm.
Okay.
So this means she can't bring it up anymore, right?
That's right.
Oh.
That you broke the promise.
Oh. Okay.
She can bring up the cat all she wants, but she can't bring up the fact that you broke your promise.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless she asks you for forgiveness for what she did.
Mhm.
Look, there's your cat. Justin and Brittany want to give you a cat.
Yeah. See, it's a cute cat too.
We're going to send it airmail to you, Indiana to Virginia.
Aw. Look how cute it is.
Okay. Does this seem like it's going to be a good thing? It is good. It is a good thing. You're going to like it. Not in the beginning. It's going to be a little difficult, maybe a little emotional. but you're going to like it. Okay, so we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Bye.
Night.